Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'll show you everything you need to know about the Marksmanship Hunter in Antorus. Like with all of the other guides, I'm making two separate ones. A guide like this one, which focuses on raids and the single target rotation. The other one is going to be my Mythic Plus guide, which is focused more on the AoE rotation. The Marksmanship Hunter underwent a lot of changes in Legion and looks nothing like the Marksmanship Hunter we left behind in Warlords of Draenor. The current Marksmanship Hunter is all about Hunter's Mark and turning Hunter's Mark into those vulnerable windows. During these vulnerable windows, we want to cast our aimed shots because they will deal more damage when the target is vulnerable. But due to how this mechanic works, the Marksmanship Hunter has one major problem, which is tier sets, in particular how insanely good the tier 22 set bonus works. Most of the time, at some point, due to Warforging, the tier 21 pieces from Antorus will outperform the old tier 20 pieces from Tomb of Sagaris, and I make my guides based on this assumption. However, with the Marksmanship Hunter, this is not the case as the tier 22 set bonus is just way too strong. Therefore, if you're new to Marksmanship, I'm really sorry, but you'll have to go and clear Tomb Heroic a couple of times, as this guide is based on having at least that tier 22 piece. But to be honest, there isn't a big difference when it comes down to rotation. Just be aware that for a single target damage, you will perform the best once you have that tier 22 piece. Let's start with Legendaries. Most common Legendary combinations for single targets. The Legendary Boots with Soul of the Huntmaster. The Legendary Boots with Gyroscopic Stabilizer. Most common Legendary combinations for AoE situations. Legendary Boots with Warbelt of the Sentinel Army, Legendary Boots with Zevrim's Hunger. In terms of Legendaries, it's quite obvious why these are best in slot, but as always, sim your character to be sure what your best in slot Legendary combination looks like. In the top right corner, a link should appear. Go ahead and click it if you have never heard of simming before. Gear, stats, and the tier 20, tier 21 set bonuses. When it comes down to making decisions in terms of gear, Mastery is our favorite stat, but you'll still need a decent amount of crit and haste as well, followed by Versatility. Again, as always, simming your character will give you all of the answers you'll need. Let's talk about the tier 22 set and why it's so damn good. Casting 2 aimed shots in a row increases your critical strike damage by 10% for 6 seconds. I think it's pretty obvious why the 2 set is so good, even with getting a 5% nerf. The tier 22 set bonus is okay-ish. Your focus generating attacks deal 30% more damage and generates 25% more focus. The tier 21 4 set, Mark Shot has a 50% chance to fire up to 3 additional targets hit by Mark Shot an additional time. It's again not great, but does have a bigger impact on bosses like High Command, ANR and Jezebel. Logically speaking, it's also good in Mythic Plus. A quick recap in terms of gear. As for tier sets, ideally you want to have the head and the shoulders from tier 20. Your back, chest, hands and legs should be taken by tier 21 pieces. Shouldn't you have any high item level tier 20 heads or shoulders, then of course equip the highest item level tier 20 you have. Again, sim your character to reach your ideal stat weight. Let's take a look at trinkets. In terms of trinkets, it's pretty similar to the Beast Mastery Hunter. Starting with the single target ones, of course as always Amethyll's Vision. The other Pantheon trinket is of course also a no-brainer at a max item level of 1000. So always combine these two with the following trinkets. Shadowed Sing Fang drops in Antorus. It has no passive stats, but it does have 2 procs, and this makes the trinket well worth it. Convergence of Fate, of course with spells like True Shot, it's again kind of logic that this one is still among the list of best in slot trinkets. Can be obtained by spinning the wheel with that Veiled Argonite or doing Nighthold with your Fury Warrior friends. Arcano Crystal, Marksmanship Hunter is definitely among those classes where a stat stick like Arcano is just too good to pass on to. Tarnished Sentinel Medallion, like with my Arcane Mage, this trinket is still insanely good when playing the Marksmanship Hunter. As for AoE trinkets, the same as most of the other ranged DPS classes, Prototype Personal Decimator, Forge Fiend's Fabricator and Terminus Signaling Beacon. Again, I mentioned the most common trinkets. Let's have a chat about the talents. Tier 15 Lone Wolf, Tier 30 True Aim can be combined with Lock and Load should you have Soul of the Huntmaster. Tier 60 Patient Sniper. In heavy AoE situations like AONR, you can play with Explosive Shot. Tier 75 Free of Choice. Tier 90 Murder of Crows for single target fights. In most AoE situations, take Volley, but sometimes when the targets are too spread, you can still take Barrage. Tier 100 Trick Shot is going to be your best choice, even in AoE situations, as you will still do a decent amount of AoE and single target damage. Piercing Shot can also be used in Mythic Plus or on fights like AONR. Sidewinders is a pretty solid choice on fights like Coven. Positioning is key to get some decent damage when playing this talent. Playstyle and rotation. The Marksmanship Hunter is all about vulnerable and trying to fit as many aim shots within that 7-second window, while at the same time using arcane shots to keep your focus high enough, so you can cast at least 2 aim shots in a row to trigger that tier 22 set bonus. Should you play without the tier 22 set, the rule is simple, you just try to fit as many aimed shots during that vulnerable window, and you don't have to worry about casting 2 aimed shots in a row to trigger the tier 22 set bonus. Here are some guidelines you can use to maximize your damage. In general, there are 2 different ways to trigger Marked Shot. Marked Shot is very important as this spell applies the vulnerable window to our target. Number 1, True Shot will make it so that Arcane Shot and Multi-Shot will always apply Hunter's Mark to the target, so that during True Shot you will always have those vulnerable windows. Number 2, simply using Arcane and Multi-Shot outside of True Shot's buff can also have a chance in triggering Marked Shot. Next, Marked Shot is, as you can already guess, a very important ability because pressing Marked Shot applies the vulnerable debuff on the target. Windburst is therefore just a better version of Marked Shot. Using Windburst is quite good, especially on our opener, as this directly puts us in that vulnerable window without even having to cast Marked Shot. Aimed Shot is obviously the hardest hitting ability the Marksmanship Hunter has at his disposal, doing well over 50% of the single target damage. We only want to use Aimed Shot during our vulnerable windows or on those really rare occasions where we cap focus. Last and not least, during True Shot, you want to cast as many aimed shots as possible and ideally cast Windburst before True Shot. Okay guys, so as always in this part of the video I'll talk and play at the same time, and I'll show you guys the rotation for the Marksmanship Hunter concerning single targets. So as always with the Hunter in general, it's about managing your focus, and right now with the Marksmanship Hunter it's about trying to fit as many aim shots in your vulnerable windows. The only difference right here is are you or are you not using the tier 22 piece, because the tier 22 piece makes it so that you have to pair your aimed shots by 2. So always using your aimed shots like 2 in a row, which will give you the critical aimed buff, which is basically critical strike damage increased by 10% for 5 seconds, and this is something that you want to keep on yourself almost all the time, hence to why it's really important that you use the 2 aimed shots in a row. So there's kind of the difficulty in the rotation, because sometimes during boss fights you will have to move a lot, so it's not always possible by using 2 aimed shots in a row. Again, using Soul of the Huntmaster is really good. Again, giving you lock and load where you can cast 2 aimed shots in a row instant, so it again is really good with the tier 22 piece. If you're not using the tier 22 piece, it doesn't really matter. Only thing that matters is the rotation is basically going to be the same, but there's not much of a stress in having to cast 2 aimed shots in a row. You're just basically trying to cast as many aimed shots during your vulnerable window. So in terms of your rotation, it looks like this. So you take a Potion of Prolonged Power, you cast a Windburst as a precast. While Windburst is flying towards the target, you push on a Murder of Crows, True Shot, and then you start with 2 aimed shots, Arcane Shot, 2 aimed shots again, Arcane Shot, until you have 90 focused, followed by a Marked Shot, and then it's again 2 aimed shots, Arcane Shot, another aimed shot, hopefully you will get off another aimed shot, and then your vulnerable window will end as well as your True Shot window will end as well. And then it's just the normal rotation of casting Arcane Shots until you have 90 focus, you're using Windburst, or you're using Marked Shot to get into that vulnerable window. In AoE situations, Marked Shot will do more damage, and Windburst will do more damage in single target situations, so pick and choose Windburst if it's single target. It doesn't really matter if you are munching stacks of your Marked Shot in single targets. So how does that look? Again, for the sake of trying to get as much uptime on your vulnerable window, you want to stand as far away from the boss as possible. So it looks like kind of like this. You take a pre-pot, and then it's everything that you have, and then 1, 2 aim shots, 2 arcane shots, again 2 aim shots, 2 arcane shots, vulnerable. Right now, because I got lucky with the, I'm just gonna use again 1 aim shot, and there we go. Because here I got lucky with lock and load, I didn't have to use it. Right now, again, you're using 2 arcane shots. Use Windburst because it's stronger than Mark Shot on a single target. Again, right now I got lock and load, which is really good because I can use another one. Use Mark Shot to get our buff. There we go. And then it's just again arcane shot, 90 focus using Mark Shot, using 2 aim shots. Again, this is really good if you get it at the end. There we go. 1 more using Windburst, using 2 arcane shots, using 2 aim shots, and that's all you really have to do, managing your focus. If you get above 90 focus, then use your, right now you can see we have Murder of Crows. Use a Murder of Crows at the end of your cast. If you cap focus, then you use Windburst. There you go. Again, like 2 as always, and then it's again 2 arcane shots. Get above 90 focus. Try to get your 2 aim shots. Pressing 2 arcane shots, and that's basically everything you need to know in terms of the rotation. So there's not much to it. It's just a matter of trying to get as many vulnerable windows as possible while managing your cooldowns at the same time. That's all for this one. Like with the Mage, the Hunter Mythic Plus guides will be coming soon, where I will give a ton of information and of course the AoE rotation. Everything you need in terms of weak auras and add-ons can be found in the description. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and of course hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.